Good morning. Thank you, Colonel Macgregor, for being with us in W Radio this morning.
Well, of course. Thank you.
Let us begin with this question. Well, you've said that there are big war profiteers who want more war. Could you go in detail about who we're talking about, who these profiteers are?
Well, I'm not sure that I said exactly what you said. What I pointed out is that the various industries, particularly the big five defense firms, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, so forth, they, of course, have made enormous profits because we have transported our war stocks to Ukraine, and in return, we have to replenish those war stocks. So the more we ship, the more money goes through the Pentagon into those industries to replace the ammunition, the equipment, the technology that is being delivered to Ukraine. As a result, there are many, many people on the Hill heavily invested in those industries or receiving contributions from those industries who are very anxious to see this fighting continue. And again, since Americans are not involved in Ukraine, they view this as essentially cost-free, that they can go ahead, spend the money, let the Ukrainians die, and then everyone benefits inside Washington, D.C. It's a terrible way to look at it, but unfortunately, I'm afraid that's true. So the shareholders are benefiting enormously, and members of the government, Congress in particular, who receive the contributions to their various political action committees, they are profiting.
Colonel, in your opinion, what are the main reasons why you think we need a negotiated settlement in Israel instead of a war?
If there is no effort to negotiate, to reach some sort of understanding between Israel and Hamas, its opponents, then the probability is very high that this war will spread and eventually involve virtually the entire region. Because the people, Arabs, Turks, and Iranians, are watching the bombings on their respective television channels, and they are appalled at what they are seeing. More than 3,500 Arab children have been killed in these bombings. That doesn't even begin to address the other casualties and killings that have happened inside Gaza, effectively limited to the civilian population. Certainly some Hamas fighters have been found and killed, but not enough to justify the murder or killing of large numbers of civilians. That's the problem. And the governments in the region are under tremendous pressure to intervene militarily to stop the Israelis from killing the people in Gaza.
Colonel Macgregor, do you believe that, we'll talk in regards to the war also in Ukraine and Russia that has been relegated, do you believe that what's happening there, that it's actually benefiting in a way Russia for what's happening in the Middle East?
Well, the Ukrainian war is lost. The Ukrainians have lost at least 500,000 soldiers killed in action. We don't know how many have been wounded, but certainly hundreds of thousands. The population of Ukraine as a result of the war is probably a little more than half of what it was at the beginning, which would put it at 18, 19 million. That's the first part. Second part is that Russia initially entered the war not with the purpose of waging war, but of sending a signal to the West that it would not tolerate a hostile Ukraine on its border. Hostile because it would be part of NATO and it would be used as a platform for attack by the United States against Russia. As a result, it became very clear to the Russians that they could not achieve their aim without fielding much larger and more capable forces. So initially starting with 200,000 Russian troops, there are today a little more than 1 million on active duty. The Russian army has expanded dramatically. Its factories have produced excellent equipment, more modern equipment that was available at the beginning. Their tactics have developed, and as a result, they are probably now the most formidable army in the world, battle-hardened and ready effectively to take on anybody. That was obviously not the goal of the United States when the United States precipitated this conflict by arming the Ukrainians for the purpose of attacking Russia. The United States hoped to harm Russia. Instead, Russia has rebounded and is now more powerful both economically and militarily than it was at the beginning of this conflict.
You mentioned a peace agreement, right, under in which Hamas and Israel could probably go into if there is any peace agreement that there is. But which conditions do you think that this could be a possibility?
Right now, Mr. Netanyahu has the unconditional support of the United States government and, as a result, its armed forces. Whatever Mr. Netanyahu wants to do, we've signaled that we will effectively support him. This is a very dangerous situation because it gives Mr. Netanyahu complete freedom to take on any enemy that he sees, not just Hamas, but also Hezbollah and potentially others in the region. What needs to happen is the President of the United States must intervene in the process and signal what the limits are to our support for Israel. What will we support and what we will not support? That has not happened, and historically, that is always what presidents have done in the past. Right now, there are no limits to U.S. support, and that, in addition to the other factors which I discussed in the previous question, will contribute enormously to the expansion of this war to include Turkey, Iran, and potentially even Russia, as well as all of the Arab states in the Middle East.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today in W Radio, Colonel Douglas Macgregor. It's been a pleasure having you today in our show.
Well, thanks very much.